So for this chapter, we're going to build an HTML5 image gallery, and it's actually an animated image gallery in that it uses the jQuery Quicksand plugin. Alright, so what that allows us to do is we have this nav bar here, and if we click on a category, you can see that it changes, it shows you the images in that category, but it does a nice little animation when you click on it. And you can see they just it's basically a filter. The Quicksand plugin, what it does is it takes your unordered list, okay, so we have an unordered list with images in it, and it adds all your images to an array, and then it creates its own unordered list based on the filters. Alright, and we're also going to use what's called the Fancy Box plugin. Well, it's not really a plugin, it's just kind of a program that allows you to use light boxes. Alright, so when you click on an image, it'll pop up, you'll have a faded out background with an X out button, and we can see that here. If I click on one of these, we get this pop-up. And we also get these arrows if we want to just scroll through the images, which is really nice. And these images that I'm using are actually this size. If you want, you could use larger images and just restrict the size on the thumbnail so that when they click on the thumbnail, a big image would show. Alright, so that's basically what we'll be doing. It's not too hard. I thought it was a good project for the second chapter, or sorry, the third chapter, second project. So let's get going. So the first thing I want to do is create a new folder, and I'm actually going to change the name of this animated gallery to finished, and then we'll create our own new folder. And let's just take a quick look at the Quicksand plugin. Basically allows us to, what I just said, have an unordered list, and we can add our filters or our categories. And you can see up here, if we click on these filter by types, click on applications, you can see it does the same thing. Alright, so it's very easy to implement, but the first thing we're going to do is get all our files and folders straightened out, and then we will create our basic index HTML file, and then we'll implement the plugins. Alright, so in here let's create, I'm not going to use the boilerplate. I thought maybe we could take a break from that and just build our own, not really a framework, but create our own folders. Alright, so I'm going to create a CSS folder, an images folder, a JavaScript folder, and of course we need our index page. Alright, I think I put a comma there. Alright, so in the JavaScript folder, I'm going to create a subfolder called Fancy Box, because we have quite a few JavaScript files for the Fancy Box library or plugin, and I just want to put them all in their own folder. And I want to do the same with the CSS. It also comes with a couple CSS files. Alright, so let's go ahead and I'm going to open up Notepad++ and navigate to that desktop directory, animated gallery. Alright, so as our index page, CSS, let's create a new file, and we'll save this as styles.css. Might as well open that up as well. And then in the JavaScript folder, we're going to create a file called script.js. Alright, so these are our main files. And before we move on, I just want to bring over those images. So from the finished, and you should have all these files in your program files. Oh, Fancy Box also has its own set of images for the arrows and things like that. So I'm just going to grab all of this and copy it over to our folder. Alright, so there's our images. Now what I want to do is build our index document. So I'm going to go ahead and paste pretty much the HTML shell. Alright, so it's just our doc type, HTML tags, head tags, title tag, and body tags. Alright, so let's start with linking to the CSS files that we already have, which is just the styles.css. So let's go ahead and link that. Oh, don't want uppercase. Style sheet, and that's going to be in the CSS folder, and styles.css. Alright, let me just put a comment there. Okay, so that's the only CSS file we have right now, so let's just do that for now. And then inside the body tags, let's create a header. This is an extremely simple design. It's basically just the gallery. We don't really have any anything else. So the header, let's go ahead and look at what we got. So the header is actually going to contain the navigation, but this navigation is actually generated by the Quicksand plugin. Alright, so we don't actually create these links, at least through HTML. So what we're going to do is just create an empty nav bar, but first I want to add a container. We're going to do the same thing. If we want things restricted in the middle like this and not go across the whole page, then we need to add our container. And if you've used Twitter Bootstrap before, then this should be very familiar to you. Okay, container. Okay, and then inside of here we're going to have our nav. So nav, and we'll just call it nav bar. Again, like Twitter Bootstrap. And we're not going to put anything in here. It's going to be generated through the Quicksand plugin, through jQuery. Alright, so under the header, we're going to have a section, and we'll give it an ID of main. Okay, now this is basically going to be our main content. So I'm going to include the container again. Alright, and in that container we're going to have our unordered list, and we're going to give that an ID of gallery. Alright, and then in here we're going to have our li tags, and we're going to have our images, our image, so image src will equal something. Alright, so that's good. Now the way that for instance, the way we want to put an image, let's say we want to put this image here inside, we want this to come up in print design and web design. What we need to do is include a data tag. Alright, so in your list item we're going to say data tags. Alright, so tags, because it's plural, we can add it, we can put it in more than one category or one tag. And let's say logo design and print design. Alright, so this is how we can get this image to show up in these two categories. Alright, so pretty easy to do. As far as the image, let's point to the image folder, and then I believe they're just labeled 1 through 23 or something like that. So that should work. Let's see if this image shows up. Alright, so there's our image. So basically we have about 23 images, and what we're going to do is just have to have a bunch of list items here. Now, if you're building this as a production app, then you'd probably want to have some kind of server-side management where you can actually go in, log in, and upload your images and all that. But like the blog that we built, this is the front end because we're focusing on HTML5. Alright, so what we need to do is basically just copy this and make about 23 of them, I believe it was. Alright, I wasn't counting, but so all we need to do is just change these numbers here. What do we get? 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, 18, 19, 20. Wow, look at that. I didn't even count. Oh, I'm one off. Okay, 23. Now, right now, they're all going to show up in the same two categories, so we're going to want to change this up a little bit. Let's just change some of these. We'll say web design and logo design. They don't have to have two, or we can have one, or we can have more than two. We can have as many as we want, really. Design. Are those the only three categories? Yeah. Alright. So you should have the files in your program files folder. If you don't want to do this, just copy it, paste it. Just trying to kind of randomize this. Whoop. Web design. Print design. All right, well, this is fine, I guess. All right, good enough. Oh, yeah. Just make sure you have all your quotes and stuff. Let's make a couple more with all three. Web design, print design, logo design. Alright, so we have our images. Let's go ahead and save this and make sure that they're displaying. Alright, so it doesn't look too good, but they are showing up. Alright, so we're also going to have a footer. So after, actually we're going to stay in the container. Let's just do that. And then under the unordered list, actually let's not stay in the container. Let's put a horizontal rule tag just to separate the footer, and then we'll have our footer tags. Now I know that there's not going to be any other footers on this site, so I don't have to put an ID on it. But we will put the container inside here. Okay, and then actually that's good, that's it. And in the inside of here we're going to have just a paragraph with our copyright. I'm just going to say HTML5 photo gallery and we'll put a copyright 2014. Alright, so that's good. That's basically the main interface. Like I said, the navigation is going to get generated through our jQuery. So, and this is a single, a SPA, or a single page app. We're not going to have any other HTML files. It's going to be all in that one file. So that's really it for this section. I just want to get our markup in there. In the next section, we'll actually style it, make it look like this, and then we'll move on to implementing Quicksand and then Fancy Box, and we should be all set.